1978, production grew to 1.6 million barrels at the high, but once the pressures deplete, the production comes down, 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 down. This happens on onshore fields like the Daiking in China, that happens on the fields in Western Canada, happens on fields all around the world. Once you start producing them, the pressures come down and then they produce less and less each well. That's why you need a return on your, if you're going to spend a lot of money putting these production in, you've got to get a rate of return. So in the meantime, until we find new oil, OPEC's got us. And the interesting thing is OPEC's not raising production because they're saying, why do we need to? First thing, America's trying to tell us to run our country the way they want us to. That's not acceptable. And the second thing is the price of oil goes from 70 to 80 to 90. We get more money selling the same amount. Why not? You know, why do they need to bring on more production? They get more money all the time. They're getting US dollars that are worth less, but they can immediately shove them into euro dollars or buy gold or buy commodities or buy real estate, buy 747s, whatever they want to do, buy something that has an asset that stays alive. That's what these countries are doing. The OPEC countries, the Saudi Arabias of the world, do not shop in America. They shop in Europe. That's why Iran wants to get euro dollars. When Iran sells oil, they want euro dollars. Chavez isn't a big buddy of the United States. He's saying, pay me in euro dollars. There's a lot of people who are saying, don't give me currency that's going down the drain. Give me something that's worth something. And that's part of the battle here that we're facing as well. Can we find a monster oil field that's going to change everything? Well, the statistical values aren't there. There are only 14 fields around the world that are over 500,000 barrels. The largest is 6 million barrel plus field in Saudi Arabia called Zawar. There's another one in Kuwait. The biggest one in the North American hemisphere is Cantarell, which is in the Gulf of Mexico, and then there's some up in the Alaska. Look at the number of fields that do 300, 500. You can see the numbers. Most of the fields around the world, 4,000, produce less than 9,000 barrels per day. That's why when you hear Encana, which sold it to Nixon, has this Buzzard field that came on that everybody's excited. Royal Exco with Brenda Field, and now Huntington. People are excited by these because they're large numbers and they're Canadian companies that are at the forefront because we have fabulous technology where you don't come around, with a big stick like the U.S. companies do. And so Canadians are loved around the world, and if they're going to do a deal, the Canadians have a very good entry, and they're doing deals in Vietnam. Talisman is there, Talisman's in Indonesia. Canadian companies are working in Syria. Canadian companies are working in Egypt very easily, and they're doing very, very well for their shareholders when they succeed with the drill bit. Technology has changed so much. In the 1940s, you could only drill in 50 feet of water. Today, you can drill in thousands of feet of water, and the technology keeps on going and finding new ways. And with subsea tiebacks, the technology is allowing us to go in miles of water, and then you drill underneath that. And that's what companies like Oil Exco have done a fabulous job, is said, we're going to take modern technology and go and act like we're drilling in Western Canada, and we're going to use subsea tiebacks, we're going to control the infrastructure, and we're going to make it work for our shareholders. And it's been a fabulous success story, and we think there'll be more of those kinds of names in the future. We're going off the deep water. There's a well that the Jack discovery was in 3 miles of water, and then it drilled a couple miles into the ground. That's the kind of thing that can be done. This whole area is chocker block with wells. This is what we've seen in the last 20 years, and now we've got these wells going even deeper because of technology. And here's the result of it. The production has gone up. By 2007, we now have about 6 million barrels of oil that's coming from the deeper wells, from the offshore wells, and that's up materially, triple. But all of this is very high cost oil, just like the tar sands, very high cost. So that's the problem. Look at the countries you can do it: Equatorial Guinea, offshore Nigeria, Norway, India, Philippines. All of the world has got basins where you have river basins or you have the fault systems, and they go in there and they look for the oil, but it's not cheap oil. Here's the Canadian experience. Our conventional crude is declining. Our tar sands are the magic formula for us, but they need higher prices. They needed $50, $60 oil to be very profitable, and now at $80, $90, they're really very, very profitable. And if the tax regime in Alberta is resolved satisfactorily, they'll keep on adding to the plants there, and potentially Canada could do 5 million barrels of oil by 2020. And with us not only using maybe about 1.5 million, we have more and more that we can export to the world. So we are one of the winners in this global thing because we do have energy and we do have the ability to export it to whoever wants it. They're talking about building pipelines to the west coast of Canada, ship oil to China and Japan. They're talking about maybe more facilities off the east coast. We have the potential of the north of Canada, which I'll talk about now. The biggest oil producer in the world is not Saudi Arabia. Does anybody know who it is? Russia. Russia is the largest producer in the world, 9.6 million barrels a day of production. Most of it comes from the Arctic area here, and they have pipelines up here to do oil and gas. And the difference between Canada and Russia is Stalin, when he put them all in, didn't care where he put them, and he didn't care about environmental issues, and he didn't care about native land claims. We've got those problems to resolve. Oil was found in the north of Canada in the 1970s in the Beaufort Sea by Jack Gallagher and Don Petroleum. Some of you may remember that name. And Panarctic, Charles Hetherington found big natural gas in the islands in the north of Canada. The wealth of this country is still to be gotten in the north of this country. We know it's there from 30 years ago, but we have to resolve our native land claims issues, which is part of the thing that's happening right now that still hasn't been resolved. And we've got to put pipelines in from the northern part of Alberta all the way up here. We've got to put in pipelines so we have access to it. Just like the Americans have access to Prudhoe Bay and the north of the Alaska area where they've got production, we have discoveries already, but we have no way of tying them in. That has to happen just like they did here, plus there's up here where we've got to spend money and put pipelines in. Pipelines are not cheap. Pipelines could cost you, they're originally talking Mackenzie Delta would be $4 billion, then $6 billion, then $8 billion, now $16 billion. It's a lot of money. And that's the kind of, and you need a rate of return. Who's going to give them the money? The banks, you as investors, unless there's a good rate of return, and that still hasn't been resolved. What should the price of oil be? You look at other things we consume, 42 gallons in a barrel. You put 42 gallons of Coca-Cola in, it's $102.59. You put milk in there, $183. Orange juice, $2.93. White wine there. Jack Daniels there. We have been lucky with the price of oil for a long time. We're not lucky anymore. Everything's gone up in inflation. Think about the house that you have and what it was worth 25 years ago. Maybe $50,000, today $600,000, $700,000. What was the cost of a car 25 years ago? Maybe $3,000, $4,000, today $40,000 for the average car. We've had inflation in clothing and education and our food, and we've been very lucky with cheap oil for so long. The problem is those days of cheap oil are no longer here. And as I asked that question before and asked you to raise your hand, would you change the price with your driving habits or buying a car that was more fuel efficient? We asked about $60 and $70. It wasn't until 100 we started getting a few more hands, and at 200 there were a lot of hands up. So the price of oil, if it went to $100 a barrel, or it cost us $100 to fill our tank, would be probably the equivalent of $120 oil, because a third of the price of the wellhead is taxation. Government taxes, provincial taxes, federal taxes. If they stay the same, if you see the price of oil at $120, you'll be back to $1.20 a liter. You were paying $1.20 a liter before, when the Canadian dollar was a lot lower. So we have had, today you can buy oil out of gasoline out here for 97 cents a liter. But we were paying $1.15, $1.20 not a year ago. So we think the price of oil is cheaper. You know, when you talk about the price being at 93 cents or 95 cents, you say, oh, the price of oil is down. Well, that's based on $88 at the wellhead for WTI. When you hear that number, you're a lot shocked because you think that number should be low. So oil is going to be my precious. It's going to go up in value. How high, I don't know. My bet is we'll see $100 oil this winter. My bet is we will see a lot higher oil if there's any disruption of supply. If this Turkish thing with the Armenians or the Kurds gets out of hand and they have a shutdown of any of the pipelines from the stands that go to Ceyhan in Turkey, we could see 1 million barrels of oil shut in. We can't have that happen during winter. If there's any attacks on the infrastructure in Saudi Arabia or any of the other big producing countries by any terrorism event, that removes that supply for any length of time, that's a problem. If any of the waterways are blocked for whatever, the Strait of Hormuz or any of the Strait of Malacca get blocked and transportation of oil doesn't happen, that's going to push the price of oil up. I don't need to argue $150 oil to be a bull. At $80 oil, it's a good story. And if natural gas would improve, it would be a better story because Canada has more natural gas than it does oil. From 2002 to 2006, the index tripled from 100 to 377. And a lot of stocks went up a lot, and if you bought stocks in 02 and you owned them in 03 and 04 and 05, you made a lot of money. But in early 06, the price of natural gas started coming down. And so Canadian natural gas-focused stocks have come down sharply. Many of them are 2-for-1 sales. Many of them are down trading at, they were 3- and 4-for-1 sales because they haven't been able to make money at $6 natural gas. Well, the inventory glut is coming down in natural gas, and it's a continental business, so that's why it was a problem. We're having less drilling going on, so we're bringing on less production all the time, and we're heading into the strongest demand season of winter, and that's going to cause the utilization to go up. We think that the index is going to break out here sometime in the winter of 07-08, and we're going to see 400 on the index, the S&P TSX Energy Index this winter, potentially Q1 of 08, maybe earlier. And then the index, we think, is going a lot higher over the next couple of years. So the question is, how high? If you look at the previous energy cycles, we haven't had that many. We haven't had that many resource cycles, be it in gold, be it in oil, be it in grains. We don't have them very often. But when they come, they can last 18 or 20 years. The oil ones can last 10 years, but the commodity for base metals and grains is longer. The one that's, you can see this one in the 1960s. This was during the Vietnam War. This, of course, was the Middle East issues where we had the Shah of Iran deposing and the price took off here. The price of oil in 1973 was $4.75 a barrel. It went up to $35.75 a barrel. It went up 7.5 times in price during that cycle. And the most exciting part of it was up here. This was the price period when we were exploring, and we found this is the Dome Petroleum phase, the East Coast Canada Hibernia phase. Look what the stocks did. They went up 12 times, more than the price of oil. Look where we are now. We've had a triple. The index has gone up 3 times, that 100 to the 350 where we are now. The price of oil has gone up 5 times. We think before this cycle is over, this index is going to trade at 1,000. 1,000, 3 times higher than it is today. Now that could happen in the next 5 years, it could happen over 10 years, I don't know. All I know is before this cycle is over, we're going higher. Why? Because stocks now are trading very cheaply. They're trading right now at 3 and 4 times cash flow. And at the peak of a cycle, if you know that you have a 7-year proven RLI, you know you're going to have reserves coming out of the ground for 7 years. But there's also probable reserves and possible reserves. You have tax pools. So by the end of the cycle, somebody's going to pay you for probables and possible reserves. So if you have today the industry running at 7-8 years for those proven, they may get 8 or 9 times that multiple at the top. And today, many of those companies are trading at 2 or 3 times cash flow. So there's a lot of bargains out there. Now, somebody says to me, Joseph, how are you going to know when it's the end of the cycle? And it's not going to be any quantitative model. It's not going to be something where the big guy talks to me and tells me tomorrow is the peak of the market. What's going to happen is you're going to watch the game and you're going to watch the players in the game. And in the 1970s, in the late 1970s, early 1980s, we had dentists buying drill rigs. Apologies to the dentists in the audience. We had real estate people, because the bank said, we got to get into oil. They were lending you 90 cents in the dollar, just like they were lending in real estate. And so the Reichman family, who are doing very well in real estate, decided they better buy an oil company. They bought Gulf Canada. And then Hiram Walker said, if it's in a barrel, we understand it. And a booze company went into the oil patch to their chagrin. They got beat up. And you had people coming into the industry who didn't know the industry. They're willing to take the money in and pay tax to Ottawa, pay tax to Washington. When you see that happen, that's the bell ringing. Because the people who know the business are saying, it's stupid, I'm out of here. And so that's your bell ringing. That is not happening today. The banks aren't throwing money at the sector. In fact, the banks are being very tough on the sector. Stocks are very cheap. There's a lot of money to be made. Now I'm going to put up this last slide, which is the recommended list that we have with Maison Placement. You can see the names there, how much they've done. They've done very well over the last number of years. It's an area that does very well. I'll be here for a little while for questions. I'm on TV doing BNN on Monday at 12:30, so if you want to call in with your favorite stocks, we can talk about it there, and you can get some TV exposure. But the key thing is, have some involvement in energy. You use it, and Canada's rich in it, make some money in it. So with that, thank you very much, and it was a pleasure being here, and I'll take a few questions. Yes, I can.
A couple of years ago, I bought Sterling instead of Esco. Can you tell me what I should have been looking for to avoid that slip up?
What we're doing is we're looking at companies that are drilling, and if Mother Nature cooperates early, as they did with Oil Exco, you have a stock that's gone from $2, $3 to $17, $16.50 or so on Friday. Sterling had a dry well with Oil Exco, but Oil Exco had others that were successful, so the stock hasn't really moved yet. They're drilling one well called Brea, which is a high-impact well in the UK North Sea. We should know in the next few weeks. In the Q1 of '08, they're drilling a couple more high-impact wells, one for oil in the UK North Sea, one for offshore gas in Romania. We still love the story. We think that at some point Mother Nature will cooperate if you do good science and you get a little bit of luck. In the case of Oil Exco, Art got very, very lucky, very, very early. In the case of Sterling, it's required to be patient.
You try to close to the microphone.
Get closer to the microphone? Okay, yeah. So Sterling, stay with it. We like it a lot, and in the next month, hopefully, we're all happy campers.
Westair Energy, the stock has been languishing of late. Do you see a near-term catalyst that can boost the share price?
The problem with it is it's natural gas. A natural gas commodity was $15 in December of 2005, and the natural gas price is under $6 today. So the economics, it's like anything. You have a high cost item which costs you $5.50 and you're getting $6, you're not very profitable. If you have a cost item of $5.50 and you're getting $15, it's very profitable. So natural gas prices have to get back to $8 or $9. We believe it will over time. And as it does, companies like Westair will do better. So they're all in the doghouse, be it Accrete, be it Vero, you name the natural gas stock, Tusk, they're all in the doghouse now because of commodity prices. But what you want to do is go and back guys who are low-cost producers, who have good land spreads, have good exploration teams, and have the ability to grow production once the price comes back up. So that's the job we have at our shop, is to find those names for our institutional clients so that they can own them early, and when the price of gas comes back up, then they make a big bundle. These stocks, many of them are down 50 to 75% from where they were 2 to 3 years ago, so we think there's lots of upside.
Joseph, where is Russian oil going these days? Are they increasing in production, or is there opportunities there?
Russia's producing about 9.68 million barrels a day. They're the largest producer in the world. The problem you have is that the companies, if they export, there's a big export duty that goes to the Russian government, so that number's been going up. So they're exporting into Europe mainly. They're refining more product, and they're going to ship the product, so they have more profit that way. We think Russia has the ability to increase production over time. The problem is that the nationalization that's occurred, where Yukos is gone and Lukoil and Gazprom now control the empire there. It's Russian controlled, and they have not treated outside shareholders very well over the last number of decades. So we have looked at a number of ideas that we're dealing in Russia. We've never felt comfortable enough. There's a country risk there that we think is very high. The Canadian and American service sector can do okay there because we're bringing new technology that helps them. But if you find an asset, they will take it. It's like they've learned from the Chavez School of Business. After they spend the money, steal it.
Joseph, your lecture is so good that we appreciate very much. I have a question that American economy is slowing down. Do you think the commodity price of oil and gas is going to drop?
Well, the problem is the U.S. number is flat. We have a weak economy in the States. They've now started lowering interest rates because of the housing problems and the financial difficulties that are happening there. Their demand for energy is about 20.7 million a day. And it's flat versus a year ago. So there is some demand slowdown there because of the weaker economy. But the demand of 1 million barrels to 1.5 million barrels that's going to happen in 2008, 400, 500,000 is going to be in China, 100 is going to be in India, South America is going to be 100, the Middle East countries where they're only charging 20 cents a liter, or 20 cents a gallon, you know, there's 200,000 demand growth there. Russia demand growth is rising because, you know, the economy is doing well. So you don't need the United States. As long as the United States doesn't go negative, you can't argue for a price decline. If you want to argue for $40 oil or $50 oil coming back, you have to say that the Chinese economy and the Indian economy are both together at the same time going into recession. If you can't argue recession in those two powerful, remember, that's a third of the population of the world. 2.3 billion of the 6 billion people in the world are in those two countries. If you can't argue they're going into recession, you cannot argue now for lower oil prices. We will have recessions in the future. We will have lower prices in the future, but not now, not in the next year or two.
In terms of the way for oil or energy investment, which way do you suggest more? Stocks or mutual funds? What do you think about the mutual funds invested in the natural resource sector?
Canada, you can't really, there's very few companies that are like 50-50 oil and gas. The only one that we cover is really Galleon. You're either focused on oil or you're focused on gas, and gas is easier to find in the basin. There are a lot of very smart money managers out there. I'm not going to go into specific names. Look through their track records over, you know, from let's say 2000 to now. Look at the performance of them. If you don't have the skill set to look at individual companies, buying mutual funds, resource mutual funds, there are some very sharp money managers out there that deal with Maison and Johning and that we know, that we see, and I'm going to meet some of them on Monday when I'm here on business. So there are some very competent people out there, so I would say yes, that makes sense to do.
Do you have any comment on Petrobank, PDG?
Yeah, I know the story. They're working on a technology for, you know, which doesn't use as much natural gas for improving recoveries. It's still not conclusively proven that it works. Management's working very hard on it. If they can make it work, the stock will do very well. They also own a piece of a company in Colombia that's done well with the drill bit. So the stock has been a darling of the street. If you own it and you believe in the story, I would stay with it.
More questions?
I know that China right now has a high demand for oil or gas, but I just wonder if you have some recommendation, so when we invest, should we focus on China, energy company, or North America? Do you have some preference?
Yeah, China's not finding a lot of oil in China. China's doing deals around the world. I think the Chinese National Oil Company now has the second largest market capitalization in the world, second to ExxonMobil, bigger than GE. I think that happened last week. The stock went up so much, it's now the biggest, second largest company in the world. They're going all around the world. So you want to invest in the places where there's oil and gas. So Canada, because we're here, that makes sense for you to invest in because you live here, you know, and it's a great area. There's a lot of natural resources going to be found in the North Sea. There's going to be resources found in Australia, offshore Brazil, offshore South Africa, different African countries. So you want to go where the oil is and where there's companies that know how to bring it to production. And Canadian companies, based in Canada, work all around the world. So I would look at those kind of names. The companies in China, the stocks have had such big runs that I'm not sure that they're as attractive as the Canadian comparison. So I pass on that part of it.
Just wondering how do you look at the other alternative energies like nuclear or solar energy? How do you look at the uranium price?
We need it all. We are using so much energy. We can't use oil for heating and for electricity. We need more nuclear. We need more solar. We need more wind power. We need it all if we're going to all survive and have the quality of life and that we have today. So all of those make attractive investments. I don't spend a lot of time on alternative investments. There are other people who do that. We have a big enough job just covering what we do. But if you say to yourself, do you want to invest in them? Yes, I have some investments in alternative energy, be it uranium, be it wind power and solar power. But again, that's not an area of expertise. I don't want to throw any names at you, but I would talk to your investment advisor, and I would definitely be in the space because I think you'll make a lot of money. Because over time, as the price of oil goes up, it makes these other alternative energies economic, and you can make money out of them.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Yeah, alright, you can start it. What's the name of that? Robert, Neville. Robert Neville. His telephone number is 647-521-3068. Is Robert Neville here? Not here? Okay. Sorry? I cannot hear you.
Not here?
No. This gentleman. What's that?
No, this is actually for the business.
For the company. Yeah. 我们现在这个抽的这个是他 Rimfire 这家公司自己的一个抽奖，然后如果你有 OK， 下面这个人叫 Thomas Lam。His telephone number is 416-443-1995. Is Thomas Lam here? No. We can keep on doing this, okay? Sorry. Okay, that's it. We are going to send this gift to these guys because we have their contact information. 那么现在呢，我们就来开始进行我们这个活动的这个抽奖仪式。我们首先来抽的，这是那个由我们这个 Hilton 这个酒店提供的一个2个人的周6自助晚餐的这样的一个餐券。抽奖呢是由我们公司的这个负责商业拓展部的经理 Fodian Lau 来进行抽奖。
Number here is 3415043. 3415043. 3415043.
Not here.
Okay, let's do the next one then.
然后我们抽下一个。
Next number here is 0083078. 0083078. 0083078.
0083078。
0082708. 0082708. 0082708.
0082708。0082708。
3415193. 3415193. 3415193. Let's do the last one then.
有吗？还没有啊。
To you then, let's try. Last one for this prize here, 0082592. 0082592.
Okay, finally we got the lucky one. 下面是谁抽的？我们下面要抽的是3等奖，移动电话一部，由这个 Unipage 的 Jeff 来负责抽奖。电话是诺基亚6330。
The winner is 0082617.
008-008-267。
08-267.
好，请您过来，请您过来。Congratulations， 祝贺你。 Where is that?多鸟，下个还是你抽吗 ？OK， 下面我们要抽的是一个由我们环球财经提供的足金元宝一个，还是由 Fonia 来进行抽奖。
The winner for this prize is 3415419. 3415419。萨西伊是一种。The bottom.
Yeah.
0083046 0083046 008304
0088多少346
008304
008346
3415169 341
OK, 5. Congratulations.好，祝贺你。好，下面我们将进行我们这个活动的最后一个。那么我们首先要抽的是一个 JAL， 就是 Japan Airline 他们自己在他们展位上放的一个礼物，然后我们再抽我们那个东京往返机票。
So the winner for this prize will be Miss Sandra Wong. Sandra Wong. And she is a representative from James So Realty Brokerage. Is Sandra here?
Would you continue to
Because
it?
we have a time limited, so why don't we do the last one here for this draw? And then we're gonna, let's see, the winner for this is Mr. William Volkson. Mr. William Volkson, the last name is spelled VUKSON. And he is from G7 Funds. Okay. Yeah, so William's a winner, so we're gonna, since he is not at the event right now, we're gonna contact him to give him the prize.
OK， 好，那我们现在来进行我们这个本届这个国际金融投资博览会的最后这个头奖的这个抽奖，奖品是东京往返机票一张。
So right now we're gonna do the draw for the airline ticket sponsored by JL.
JL 是我们这个次活动的这个机票的这样的一个赞助商。OK。
The number is 0082897.
008多少
？0082897。
0082897，东京往返机票一张。好，我们再抽下一个，不是下一个，再抽一个，看看他怎么样在。OK， 好，恭喜你，也谢谢大家来参加我们国际金融投资博览会，让我们在2008年的国际金融投资博览会上再见，谢谢大家。